What's up, guys? It's Monty with the Multiverse, and today we have some breaking news from Marvel Studios. And no, we're not talking about all the official announcements that came from the Marvel Studios animation panel earlier, but we will have a video on that later. We are talking about the leaks that happened today. And you may be asking, what leaks? And I'm about to tell you. Marvel had filed trademarks for a bunch of different titles of potentially upcoming movies for Phase 4 and beyond. Now, this is pretty standard practice. You trademark things so that other people or companies can't take them before you have a chance to use it, or take it so that you have to purchase it from them. So it's standard business practice. A lot of times it just goes right over people's heads, but eagle-eyed fans tend to be looking for stuff like this, and we just so happen to catch it this time. One of the biggest complaints about Phase 4 of the MCU is that there is no direction, and the titles that are on these trademarks are pretty much answering those questions for people. Realistically, if you've been paying attention to all the properties that we've had so far, you kind of have an idea of where the story's going. But these trademarks, which we know have been filed officially, if they end up being the official titles of these movies, it's pretty much Marvel saying, you want to know what we're doing? Here, this is what we're doing. But that's enough of the preamble. Let's get right into these titles. The first one being the most obvious, being the ones that people have been waiting for a while now, and that is Avengers Secret Wars. Obviously, most people assume that this is where this phase was building towards. We were building to the Secret Wars event, but I just don't see this movie happening very soon. There are a lot of pieces that still need to be placed on the board. I definitely think this is something we're building up to. We've had mentions of the incursions, of the multiverse, of different universes colliding and battling each other. So I think as the years go on, we're going to keep peppering in different things like that, which will lead up to the big Secret Wars event, which essentially is when incursions cause the end of the universe, and it gets re-emerged by Emperor Doom, by Doctor Doom, into essentially a battle world type of universe, where different universes are fighting each other for supremacy. And at the end of the story, a new universe is born from it that merges a lot of stuff from other universes. But like I said, there are still many pieces need to be placed on the board in order for this movie to happen. Specifically, is Doctor Doom going to be the main villain of this movie? Because if so, we need a Doctor Doom. I know we're expecting him to come soon with the fantastic forecasting, but nothing's really promised. And so I think that this movie is going to be further down the line. I don't think this is going to be our next Avengers movie. What I do think is going to be the next Avengers movie is the next title on this list, which is Avengers: The King Dynasty. Now, the King Dynasty is a storyline from the comics, but like Avengers Age of Ultron, I think they're just using the name King Dynasty as opposed to taking elements from the storyline, because it's a very long, very intense storyline that involves Kang and his son Marcus, who was the Scarlet Centaurian at the time, which is another identity of Kang, by the way, coming to Earth and essentially just taking over the planet. And it involves the Avengers being stuck in space and a giant sword, and Kang's a giant projection of Kang in space fighting a giant projection of Captain America. So yeah, it's a pretty intense storyline, and I don't think that's where all the pieces we have now are building to. I think that we are going to get an Avengers King movie, and I think the movie is going to be essentially about, I think in the next couple of films, we're really going to start ramping up and seeing the different variants of King, and I think they're all going to start battling each other or taking each other out, because that is something that King does in the comics. And I think when we're down to one or just a couple of Kings left, they will either attack the Avengers or attack the Earth, and that movie will essentially be about Avengers trying to stop these time-traveling, very powerful beings from basically taking over the planet, taking over the world, taking over the universe. So I think that's where we're going next. For the Avengers to reassemble, we kind of need a really big threat to happen, and I think that King is a big enough threat to cause the heroes of the universe to kind of join forces. You know, you have that Captain Marvel level of intensity. Captain America could be there, Sam Wilson, you know, so everyone can get involved with a fight like that. So I think that's where we're headed next for the Avengers. But speaking of Sam Wilson, the next movie on this list is Captain America: New World Order, which is an interesting title. We know that New World Order was, I believe, the title of an episode of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, so it's interesting to see that attached to the movie as its title as well. But again, these are not final. These, just because Marvel trademarked these doesn't mean that they can't change it and do a new trademark later on for a new title. So these are tentative titles for movies that they are working on. So we know that there's a Captain America 4. It was announced. The director was announced. There's posters all around San Diego Comic-Con. So it's pretty likely that we're going to get an announcement with the official title tomorrow during the Hall H presentation. But it's not a bad title because, you know what? It kind of alludes to the fact that this is a new Captain America. We have to embrace the new status quo of having Sam Wilson as Captain America, but also the world has to get used to having Sam Wilson as Captain America, and it's very interesting to see like the politics and the whether or not he's accepted by people. Because in the comics, there was a lot of in-universe people didn't fully accept Sam at first for obvious reasons. You know, a lot of racist people didn't accept him because of the color of his skin. And so they made up excuses of why they didn't like him, and it was very interesting to see Sam kind of deal with that. And I'm hoping we get a very intimate, political, just like political spy thriller, Winter Soldier-esque Captain America movie, this time starring our new Captain America, Sam Wilson. I would love to see the new Falcon make a reappearance again, Danny Torres, but yeah, that's what we're expecting with that one. And the next title on the list, you know what? Let's save that one. Let's go to the one under it. The one under it is a movie that was announced a while back, and that's the Thunderbolts, a movie that a lot of fans wanted to happen, a lot of fans expecting were going to happen, as we had more and more villains being captured instead of being killed off. So the Thunderbolts are essentially Marvel's Suicide Squad. It is a team made up of villains. In the comic books, it was led by Baron Zemo. Baron Zemo just happens to be around and was just featured in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And they start off as bad guys pretending to be good guys in order to do bad things, but the other members of the team, besides Baron Zemo, decide that they like being good, and they end up being good guys. And then later on, the Thunderbolts was turned into essentially a Suicide Squad-esque team under the control of Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross. Yeah, they essentially go on missions, they bicker with each other, you know, standard bad guy team-up things. And that's the Thunderbolts. We kind of knew that was coming. I'm expecting at least a title card that we're going to see tomorrow. So that's cool that that's on there. But the last title on this list is interesting because I think it could be interpreted multiple ways. And that is the Multiverse Saga. Multiverse Saga is on the list. And two things pop into my head immediately when I heard that. It's either a film that is essentially not attached to the main storyline of the MCU. It's essentially potentially a film series of movies that can be standalone in the vein of Joker or something like that can be told about characters that exist in the Marvel universe that is not associated with what's the continuing story arc of the MCU. It could be its own thing. It could have a beginning and an end, and that's it. So I was really curious about that. But what I actually think it is, and it makes the most sense, is if they're just trademarking this, because this is going to be the title of Phase 4 and 5, or Phase 4, 5, and 6, just like the Infinity Saga is the overarching title of Phase 1, 2, and 3. This is going to be the overarching title of Phase 4, 5, and 6, or just Phase 4 and 5. It's going to be called the Multiverse Saga. So we will have the Infinity Saga, and then the Multiverse Saga. Except now, early on, they realized that they are going to be separating it into sagas, so they are using the name Multiverse Saga. But that's what I think that is. So guys, those are all of the trademarks that we got leaked today, and I'm pretty excited. Again, don't get too disappointed if they don't reveal these things tomorrow in Hall H. How Trademarks works is you could file them and then hold on to them, so they could be saving these reveals for D23, or they could be saving them for a little bit later on. But who knows, now that they're out onto the internet, we may get one or two of these, or maybe all of them, revealed to us tomorrow during the Hall H presentation. But none of this is guaranteed, none of this is promised. So, those are leaks, guys. Let me know down below in the comments what are your thoughts, and which one of these are you the most excited for? Because there's a couple that I can think off the top of my head. If you liked the video, make sure to give it a huge thumbs up. And if you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell to stay up to date on all of our latest content, because we have tons coming out. And until next time, guys, stay versed.